What is a complete human? Is it a cover model? Is it a science geek? Is it a fitness expert? Or all of the above and more? Jana and Evan are crusaders that walk the earth looking at today's issues that touch our hearts and minds. The honest and hopeful outlook on the advancement of today's society. The science behind the decay of human relationships. The necessary preparations for future generations. Join us as we look deep inside ourselves and embark on a journey into becoming a complete human.
Because they're insulin resistant, consuming 5 to 10,000 calories a day. They've
Right.
got so much oxidative stress because of what they're doing. So
Right.
what visually looks like the epitome of health, for all intents and purposes, could be just, as you said, on the cusp of.
I've seen it so many times. Yeah, because I do a lot of blood work, the Health Optimization Medicine, that nonprofit, I'm a practitioner as well. So I do that work with my own clients, and I have a lot of athletes that I work with. And it's almost always the case, because especially higher level athletes that have coaches and that are doing professional sports or high level sports, like they're not recovering and they're not giving themselves the vitamins, minerals, nutrients that they need to recover. And even if they're having 5 to 10,000 calories, I mean, I've seen it countless times. These guys are like on the top of their game, but their vitamin levels and their antioxidant levels are like, we're in the freaking tank. And I'm like, guys, if you don't get this done now, you're going to be done performing, done competing in the next 5 years. And Dr. Ted, who I've worked with now for the last 5 years or 6 years, he's seen this for decades. You know, if he can work on that optimizing strategy early, like the longevity that you have in these particular careers is significantly higher. But this is like a preemptive kind of strategy. And so you're right. I mean, it's terrible to see the actor or like the athlete that's in the ICU ward because of COVID, and you're like, how could this be? They're exercising and they're eating so well, but like, what we look at, it's just like the marathon runner who finishes their marathon and then just dies, right? The first guy that ever did a marathon, the Greek guy, right? That ran from whatever town it was to the town of Marathon, got there and then delivered the message and just died, right? So we know that marathons aren't healthy for us. So, and the first guy showed that, even though that's what we still do. And people compete in Ironmans and triathletes or triathlons. Not to say that stuff is not great and fantastic and you can be really fit doing that, but like anything else, too much of a good thing, right? So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we just talked about, the dosing of methylene blue, but I wanted to go back to the dosing of nicotine because I was doing some research on the amount of nicotine in one cigarette is between 6 and 20 milligrams. I think it's kind of substantial compared to what is in your product.
Right.
So do we really need that much nicotine to have a cognitive benefit? Obviously not, because it's nominal compared to what's in a cigarette.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, nicotine in a cigarette, it depends on the cigarette and depends on the product, but somewhere between 6 and about 28 milligrams per cigarette or per vaping hit. Actually, the vaping products are the worst because they have so much more nicotine and other additives, and you get so much quicker than you do in a cigarette. But the troches that we developed only have 1 milligram of nicotine in a full troche, and that in each of the troches can actually be scored. They are scored, and so you can break them up into quarters. You can actually have a quarter of a troche at a time. So for me, my dose is a quarter troche, and that's 1/4 of 1 milligram of nicotine, right? And even if you have a full troche, that's just 1 milligram. When most replacement products are 2 milligrams or 4 milligrams. So if you get like a gum, or if you get some sort of lozenge, or if you get a patch, the patches are higher because there's less absorption. But in general, we're using a very low dose of nicotine, and you're seeing a pretty significant cognitive benefit. And that's really where the research is really showing, is that you don't need a huge amount of nicotine. You just need a little bit to get to these receptors in your brain to release a bunch of neurotransmitters that are responsible for learning. So your dopamine, your glutamate, your serotonin, you're getting all these neurotransmitters that are being released that help you with learning, and actually blood flow improvements in the areas of the brain that I was talking about before. And so, yeah, I mean, we're really emphatic about very low dose. Don't smoke or vape your nicotine. Let it dissolve slowly in a troche like we have formulated. And you're good. You just follow the box directions and not have more than 4 troches per day. Excuse me. And very few people do that anyway. Typically with blue cannatine, it's a 3 to 5 hour hit of feeling like you've launched, right? You have focus, the creativity, et cetera. And so most of our blucanidine users are having them in a sort of a targeted way when they know that they have 3 to 4 hours where they really got to be on, or they have 3 to 4 hours where they really need to write copy or write a lecture or give a lecture.